Mayor, let's go Brandon Johnson. He says that Chicago's finances have reached point of no return. What does that mean? Chicago bankrupt? Let's get into it. Here we go.
We have reached a point of no return. The systems that people rely upon, education, healthcare, housing, our transportation, they are woefully underfunded. And everyone knows that. Everyone knows what, my commitment is to progressive revenue. I can't do this by myself.
The mayor's statement coming in response to a question about a pension bill Governor Pritzker signed into law last week. That law will increase retirement benefits for police and firefighters, adding more than $11 billion to Chicago's long-term pension liability. Johnson says the state needs new progressive revenue options, but he did not name any specific plans.
Of course he didn't. When Let's Go Brandon Johnson starts talking, it just leads to one liability after another, doesn't it? He just opens up his mouth. Who was it? Who was it who was saying that the game plan with AOC was Operation Let Her Talk? So funny. So funny. Operation Let Her Talk. Just let her open her mouth. Operation Let Brandon Johnson Talk. What is he talking about? Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson sounded the alarm Tuesday about Chicago's finances. Literally, this guy, it's not shocking, but it's like, what are you? You're the leader of Chicago, and you're basically saying Chicago is toast. Now, one of the things I'd like to point out is that Illinois will have spent $2.5 billion on the criminal illegals supporting them. Chicago has spent $300 million of their own money and another $478 of federal money. It's over $800 million that Chicago has spent on the criminal illegals. And you're telling me that the city has reached a point of no return on their finances? That's just terrible management. That is just horrific management. What were you thinking? Oh, we had to have all the criminals come. We had to be able to virtue signal. Oh, and by the way, we have reached a point of no return. You can't really use those words because that means point of no return means it's done. It's over. It's gone. You can't go back. Why can't you go back? Because you're bankrupt. You need a federal bailout. Is that what we're saying? Is that what we're saying? Choice of words here. Optics are everything. We're at a point of no return. So, we reached a point of no return, Mayor Johnson said Tuesday. The systems that people rely upon, education, healthcare, housing, or transportation, those were all known quantities before you started spending hundreds of millions of dollars on the criminal illegals, right? I'm just stating the absolute bare bones honesty. So, don't you love it when people say, I'm not going to lie? Like all the other times you are lying, but this one, now that you said not gonna lie, that's when you come out with the truth? Okay. All right. Yeah. This is a known quantity. Education, healthcare, housing, transportation. Everybody knows those are important things. And they were important before you made the decision to start, spending all this money on the criminals. And we're just talking about the criminal illegals. We're not talking about all kinds of other nonsense that you've got in the books. You got just a bunch of bloat. You got a bunch of nonsense in there. All this other stuff. Yeah, whatever. They're woefully underfunded. Well, if you had some of that money back, from the criminal illegals, do you think you might be able to fund it a scooch better? Or are we just going to go down land of shenanigans and just call it good? What could go wrong, right? What could go wrong? And everyone knows that. Well, woefully underfunded? No, you just spent money on other dipshit stuff you didn't need to. That's what happened. Everyone knows what. My commitment is to progressive revenue. All right, Let's Go Brandon Johnson has committed to progressive revenue. What does that even mean? Well, he's going to tax big business. He's going to tax wealthy people. Huh. How's that going to work out? Ask Seattle how's that's working out. Ask State of Washington how that's working out. You had the greatest loss of construction jobs in the United States by the state of Washington because when you do progressive revenue, tax the rich, tax business, tax wealthy individuals, they leave. They leave because they have options. Jeffrey Bezos sold his home, $63 million. Hunts Point. I think it was Hunts Point. Is it Hunts Point? Yeah, I think so. And he went to Florida. He went with, just the chick with the big smile. I can't do this by myself. Let's go, Brandon Johnson says, after talking about commitment to progressive revenue. Progressive revenue. He just talks about progressive nonsense. He uses buzzwords as if they're, set in concrete. Okay, we're going to have some progressive revenue take over for this $1.2 billion budget deficit. We're going to progressively get revenue in there. And you're like, what? From where? You just can't throw out words and hope it works out. You got to have an actual plan. But let's go. Brandon doesn't have that because he's not able to really put that together. He's not able to put, when you spend the money here, maybe you don't have it over here as an option to spend because you spent it. It's like a child running through their allowance, right? Well, what you spend it on? Well, I got a candy bar. I got some. You're like, okay, so you're out of money. I know, but I need progressive revenue. Mayor's statement came in response to a question about a pension bill signed into law by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker last week. That was an interesting one. Basically upped. Law will increase retirement benefits for police and firefighters, adding more than $11 billion to Chicago's long-term pension liability. And then along comes, let's go, Brandon Johnson, going, we're out of money. We're at a point of no return. And you're left with, you knucklehead. This is on you there. Let's go, Brandon. Johnson said that the state needs new progressive revenue options. How about you just cut some programs? Why don't you do like Doge? Just cut a bunch of ridiculousness. We know you've got extreme ridiculousness in Chicago in your budget there. We know that. We know. Just take an absolute axe to those programs. You don't need them all. You don't need them all. It's a bunch of nonsense because most of them aren't working anyway, right? They're just not. You got a bunch. I mean, governmental entities that spend hundreds of millions of dollars on criminal illegals, they're going to make poor decisions. They've made other poor decisions. This is layer upon layer upon layer of poor decisions coming out as a point of no return. Just a bunch of knuckleheads running around, right? That's what liberal politics are. That's what progressive politics are. Hey, let's tax the heck out of everybody. Seattle or Washington State, $9.2 billion in new taxes. Oh, so progressive. That's progress. So that's the right. No, right? No. City of Chicago has a massive 1.1. Sorry, I overstated it at 1.2. A $1.1 billion budget gap to fill for 2026. It should work out fine because let's go. Brandon Johnson says we're going to fill it up with progressive revenue. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make it happen. Mayor Johnson has promised not to once again pitch a property tax hike, which the city council unanimously rejected for 2025, but said last week he's looking at creative ways to raise tax dollars. Isn't everybody in a big liberal city, big blue counties, big blue states, they are looking to raise tax dollars because you have to fund all of their welfare programs and all of their ridiculousness that doesn't work, that we know doesn't work, because look at how things are going. We are past the point of no return with our finances. Yeah, let's look at that little story for a second. City Council unanimously rejects Mayor Johnson's proposed $300 million property hike. Remember when we podcasted that November of 24? Just a quick 10 months ago. How did that go? What was the vote on that? I think it was like 50-0. We have that number in here. I mean, it was such a stunning number that you're like, what happened? Just absolutely crazy. This is my fourth mayor. This is the first time I've seen that lack of collaboration with the mayor. And this is why you're getting a 50-0 vote. 5-0 vote on Let's Go Brandon Johnson's just out of left field. Let's do a $300 million tax increase. 50-0 is what the answer was. So that's why Let's Go Brandon Johnson is basically stating, well, we got to come up with some progressive revenue. He never says what that is. They're going to tax big business. They're trying to tax. They're going to tax a head tax on employees in big companies, because in Let's Go Brandon Johnson's, twisted world, big corporate has to pay their fair share of taxes, even though they're a lot of what's holding this whole thing together with a tiny little rubber band and hoping, this should work out fine, should be fine, should be okay. The menu on the table appears to target Chicago's ultra-rich. Johnson said he's looking for ways to extract more tax dollars from the 127,000 millionaires who now call Chicago home, as well as the 25 billionaires residing inside the city limits. How do you think that might go for Chicago? Eventually. What do you think will happen? You think more millionaires are going to dump on into Chicago? Guys, greatest place ever. Greatest thing ever living in Chicago. No. They're going to take their money and they're going to be somewhere else. Not that hard to figure out. But hey, let's go with that progressive revenue because you spent all that other money on the criminal illegals. Yeah. It's what we're doing. The mayor also said he's weighing reinstating Chicago's corporate head tax. Yep, we heard about that. And a new tax on social media advertising is also on the table. He's going to tax whatever he can get his hands on. He's just going to tax the absolute F out of things. That's what Washington State's doing. But what's crazy about Washington State? What's crazy about Seattle right now is all of the far left extremists. They are doing very well politically. We just had a primary. They're all doing really well from the standpoint of all of the moderates and the centrists are getting crushed. Let's push back on Trump and Trump getting things done. They're like, we hate Trump, F Trump. Let's bring in a commie. What could go wrong? Let's bring in a straight up communist. So Seattle is heading right back to 2020. We're right back. We're going to be right there. It's going to be wild, right? It's going to be absolutely wild. I mean, podcast for days. Chicago Mayor Johnson defends spending on migrant crisis during Capitol Hill hearings. Remember this one where Let's Go Brandon Johnson? He sat there and I live streamed a lot of that. And he just said, yep, we're a sanctuary setting. And now he's saying that things are beyond repair. That we're beyond the point of no return. So are we honestly looking at bankruptcy here? I mean, is Chicago just going to take the big old L and go down the bankruptcy? I don't know. But with leaders in charge like Let's Go Brandon Johnson, I would say that is a very great reality, because this whole notion of figuring out a budget and going with that and living within a budget, it doesn't seem to work for these big blue liberal cities, counties, states. Doesn't work. You got this budget, then you've got all this massive bloat on ridiculous stuff you don't really need, but you promised all these special interest groups that you put together. So if you're living in one of these big progressive cities, the one thing you can count on is your budget's just going to get worse. You're going to go past the point of no return. You're going to elect more blue people and even bluer people. In Washington, I wasn't sure that, that's a reality. We're already blue 10 ways from Sunday, but let's just go a little bit further left and we'll see how it works out. Because that policy, that progressive policy, that liberal policy, it's been working out so good so far. Again, and in Chicago's instance, that it's bankrupting the city. We're past the point of no return. We need progressive revenue. I mean, tens of thousands of people were transformed into political pawns when they were bused and flown from Texas to Chicago over the course of the last 3 years, because Chicago's virtue signaled that they wanted them all. And people are like, I want to go to Chicago. I want to go to New York City. I want to go to DC. I want to go to Denver. And guess what? All the liberals said, bring us your weary, bring us your weak, bring them all to us. And Governor Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis were more than happy to do that. Hey, can you take 2 bus loads through? Remember when Let's Go Brandon Johnson, he went down this road of, well, we're not going to let the bus drivers stop here. He just had all this ridiculous chicken shit nonsense. They're not coordinating with us. You can only drop off the illegals at 2 p.m. on days that end in Y. You know what I mean? It was just this ridiculous. They're not coordinating with us. Who cares? That's not how this game is played. They're going to dump them off on your front porch and you're going to bend over and take it because that's how Greg Abbott versus Let's Go Brandon Johnson turned out. And now you're bitching about our finances are past the point of no return. Stunning. Stunning, isn't it? Just the lack of logic and the lack of leadership that Let's Go Brandon Johnson can consistently muster. People of Chicago elected me as the 57th mayor of the city of Chicago, and we serve all the residents of the city of Chicago. Well, especially the ones that are not there legally, especially them. And that soaked up a big portion of your budget. But, we're not going to keep harping on that. Yeah, we are. However, that service comes with a cost. According to data obtained by the ABC 7i team, since September 2022, the city has paid out $638.7 million in vendor contracts for the new arrivals. How much is our budget deficit? 1.1 big ones with the B? The B? And you spent $638.7 million? Some of that's federal money. I get that. But it's like, what did you think would happen? That's what I used to tell my kids when they made a terrible decision. What did you think would happen as a result of your actions here? What did you think would happen? You stole a chocolate beer from QFC and some manager special donuts. What did you think would happen? I didn't think they'd arrest us. Well, yeah, but you left the parking lot and they've got a camera in the parking lot and it had your license plate and that's registered to me. And I had to pick up the phone at 6 o'clock in the morning when Officer Johnson called me. Hey, it's been a little incident. Your son stole some donuts and a chocolate beer. Okay. All right. Actions have consequences. Spending all that money. Now you're complaining and now you need that progress. This is just emblematic of leadership in these big cities. They want what they want. They want it now. And then when push comes to shove, we're out of money. We need some more money. Crazy stuff. It's just, whatever. Right? At the end of the day, that's what you're left with. Whatever. What a bunch of lunatics. What more can you say? All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this one. I'll see you on the next one because we got lots more to cover. Thanks again for being here. Bye for now.